you ever been to Vegas?
I have been to Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the Kansas City running backs, you know what I am?
Roulette table.
I'm out. I'm out. I'm out.
Tapped out. Okay.
I'm look, like that's what that was. I'm getting questions in my ear. Was that was me being out?
Yeah. I'm glad. I don't think that's
what the blackjack dealers
okay.
blackjack dealers do. They show that they're out. They show that they're not stealing any chips from the casino.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
My name is Matthew Berry. It is live at noon on Peacock, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Welcome to Happy Hour with Fantasy Football Happy Hour, I should say, with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's. Jay Croucher, head trader of PointsBet, is here alongside me live from beautiful SoFi Stadium here. We have football today.
It's here.
We have real football today.
Right here.
Right here. Behind me, people will be dropping passes and frustrating my fantasy team. Right there. Right there on the 25-yard line. Cannot wait. We finally got here. We got here, fam.
We got here. Less bugs today.
Less bugs today.
Kinder conditions in a way.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's absolutely fantastic. So, big show today. It is Love-Hate Day.
Yes.
Love-Hate for Week 1 is out now. You can read it. Well, it's not out now, but it'll be out pretty soon on NBCSportsEdge.com, Rotoworld.com. Of course, it is free. So, Love-Hate, the majority of the show today will be Love-Hate as we get you set for Week number 1. We've got some good prop bets for you as well for tonight's game. If you are so inclined to wager some money on the game tonight. But first, Jay Croucher, we got some headlines.
We got some news. So
These are Rotoworld headlines.
We do. We've got a little clip to throw to on J.K. Dobbins and his injury update. A tough update from Lamar Jackson.
All right.
Day by day, he's getting better. I told him I want him to slow down, but he's looking pretty good. So hopefully he'll be out in a couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to that guy, and he's very eager to play. I guess he's been hearing a little outside noise. He ready to go.
Couple weeks away.
Couple weeks.
Yeah.
That was notable.
Yeah.
That was eyebrow raising.
Yeah, just threw that in there, Lamar.
Just
Does that change your opinion?
Yeah, and so what I would say is I think there's absolutely a chance, obviously, that he's not playing in Week 1. Weeks, who knows? He's not a team doctor. I think he was trying to, I don't want to speak for Lamar, but my sense is that Lamar was basically trying to say, like, hey, he's ready to go. He wants to prove everyone wrong. He's going to be out there in a couple weeks. He doesn't know J.K. Dobbins' timetable. I do think there is a chance. I actually heard from a source last night that he is unlikely to play this Sunday, but they think he'll be back next week in Week 2. Understand that Gus Edwards is already on the physically unable to perform list. I think Mike Davis has a chance here to be sort of interesting, right? I mean, they play the Jets.
They do.
The Jets are not good. Hashtag analysis. Look at that. There you go. God bless.
Yeah, I think Kenyan Drake as well, just for a couple of weeks. We've talked a lot about Kenyan Drake, Mike Davis on this show, haven't we? Amir Abdullah, those types of players.
I'm not ready to – I am not – in Week 1 of the NFL, when you don't have any buys, unless you're dealing with massive injury issues, and I don't think there are that many running backs that are banged up, I'm not starting Kenyan Drake.
No.
You want to play him as a cheap punt play in DFS? I got no problem. In a GPP, fine. Knock yourself out. I do think Mike Davis, even if Dobbins is healthy and active for this game, Davis is going to get probably half the touches. And I think there's a chance that Davis is the lead running back against the Jets for the Baltimore Ravens. I will say, though, I think it's a big Lamar Jackson game, right? I mean, so we'll see how this all plays out, but I think your ride or die this year in Lamar Jackson starts off with a big game against the Jets.
I think so, and I think the players who might benefit most from a fantasy perspective, it's not even necessarily the running backs. It's not necessarily Drake and Davis. It's more Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely, and then also Lamar Jackson, who's just going to have to do more and accumulate more of the yards himself on the ground.
Worth noting, both Mike Davis and Isaiah Likely made the other receiving votes portion of my love-hate column today.
There you go. Okay, a more optimistic update on a running back.
All right.
No limitations on James Robinson in his return from an Achilles. How does that change where you've got James Robinson?
Well, I think it's really encouraging. Yeah, I've said this before, I quote tweeted Mike Florio, at Pro Football Talk, put this out earlier today. This same thing that that Peterson, there are no limitations on him. This is a quote from Doug Peterson on September 7th. I've been in situations like this where you want to go in and control the pace of play with a guy like James, but if he's feeling good and there hasn't been any setbacks or anything, then you just go. You just roll with it. James Robinson himself says, quote, "If I had limitations, I wouldn't be out there. I feel good. I'll go out there to be me again." Again, this is a guy who was, prior to his Achilles injury, basically a borderline top 20 running back for on a Jaguars team that we think was brutal last year. One of the worst offenses in the NFL, just an absolute disaster under Urban Meyer. However, and he got a lot of touches, though. I mean, like, James Robinson got a lot of touches. I want to be clarified. Like, when you say Urban Meyer and touches, you have to really clarify what you're talking about. I'm talking about James Robinson. So I'm talking about James Robinson there, who got a lot of touches last year and was productive despite the fact of being a bad offensive line. Okay, now, much better offensive line. They improved it this offseason. They have ETN. We expect this offense to be a lot better. Peterson likes to use multiple running backs. James Robinson, who's going as running back 45 in Yahoo, remains. He was on my preseason love list. We talked about him on the show, Jay. Like, he's going way too late. Like, they don't want Travis Etienne to run between the tackles. Connor Rogers and I talked about this as well. He's not a between the tackles 20-touch-a-game guy. Etienne isn't. And so with Peterson and the fact that he's healthy, that he has no limitations, I think going to be one of the biggest steals. Even if he gets half of the Jaguars running back touches, one of the biggest steals of the drafts this year.
Yep, this is going to be a timeshare. This is how Doug Peterson does things. It's how he did them in Philadelphia. And also, you raised the point that the Jags, they were terrible last year. This year they're going to be better. My favorite bet for any team to win a division is the Jags at plus 750. They're going to be putting up big numbers on teams like the Texans. The Colts and the Titans aren't that intimidating either. So I think there's lots of scope for James Robinson to outperform his ADP. Now, turning to the pessimistic side, George Kittle. He injured his groin on Monday. Did not practice on Wednesday. There's a little bit swirling around the Niners now. There's some injury concerns.
By the way, you said you mentioned he injured his groin, and then you said swelling, and I wasn't sure where you were going. There was some swelling, and I'm just like, oh, God, is Jay going to get us canceled in week 3? But you didn't.
It's the Australian accent. It turns I's into E's.
Yeah, no.
Swirling around.
Swirling, not swelling around. Got it, understood. Okay, good. So I just want to assure everyone watching, and especially our friends at Applebee's,
yes,
that you did not say swelling and groin.
No,
they have nothing to do with
swelling.
each other.
No.
We have no idea whether George Kittle's groin has swelled or not.
We can't confirm that it hasn't.
Yeah, we don't know.
No.
We are not up to date on the swelling status of his groin. We just know George Kittle's groin is injured.
We have no.
We don't know how it's injured.
No, but it is injured.
Yes.
We'll get research on it. Maybe we get Blake and Damien to give us some status updates on the swell condition.
Do a deep dive.
Deep dive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
really get in the crevices.
Yeah, be careful with those words as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm being told in my ear that we have actually been canceled, that we're just now talking to ourselves. Jay, what are your concerns if George Kittle misses this? Anytime a tight end shows up on the injury report, that's a concern. The fact that he didn't practice Wednesday after a preseason in which it seemed like the guy was pretty healthy, that raises some eyebrows.
He wasn't 100% healthy last season either. I do think the thing, though, is they have a lot of depth. You can give more targets to Deebo Samuel, to Brandon Ayuk. Trey Lance is obviously going to run the ball as well, but I would just start to get a little bit worried about this Niners team, that the offensive line outside of Trent Williams isn't great. They're depending on players like Jason Verrett. Now George Kittle is injured. They play in a tough division, at least with the Rams and the Cardinals. Not too worried about the Seahawks. So, yeah, I think it's just something to watch, and we'll just have to see. I wouldn't expect that he's going to give that much this week as well, particularly as they're touchdown favorites against the Chicago Bears. So they probably don't need to, unleash the NOS on George Kittle. Yeah. But, it's something to watch.
It's definitely a story to watch, because the truth is that even if he's active, to your point, they're over a touchdown favorite to the Bears. Like, if they get up big, they say, all right, George, you played a couple of snaps. Like, so it's one of those things that you almost would rather. You'd almost rather them be, they'd say, hey, he's inactive,
yes,
than having to try to figure out whether or not he's going to go out there and give it a go. Worth noting that, Deebo Samuel, weeks 5 and 6 last year when Kittle did not play, he was wide receiver 24, 16.1 fantasy points per game. Week 8 when Kittle didn't play, he was the 7th best wide receiver in fantasy that year. And this is all pre-second half of the season where Deebo just went absolutely bananas. But it is absolutely a concern when you think about the fact that George Kittle has missed 11 games over the last 2 years. Something to watch out for. They have until Friday to determine. We'll know a lot more tomorrow.
I think the thing with the Niners is that they have guys who have more to give on offense. The concern about the Niners is they have too many guys, and there's too many cooks in the kitchen, too many mouths to feed. But now Deebo, he can get more of a workload. Brandon Ayuk can get more of a workload as well.
Yeah, and by the way, and again, as touchdown favorites, maybe they just go more to the run game.
Yes.
Like we like Elijah Mitchell in this game. To Trey Lance, does he just sort of tuck it and run a little bit? It'll be interesting to see how that plays there. We are here in Rams' house,
yes,
SoFi Stadium, where the Rams will host the Bills tonight, right here on NBC. Football Night in America precedes that.
You're on that, right?
I am on that.
Yep.
It's Marie Taylor, it's Coach Dungy, it's Coach Garrett, it's Coach Garrett, it's
Chris
Jack
Sims.
Collinsworth, it's Chris Sims, it's Rodney Harrison, it's Mike Florio, and it's me.
And it's you.
And it's me. But I am. I'm in the cast. I'm in the cast photo, and so that'll be on NBC and Peacock. I am a company man. 7 p.m. tonight. Tune in, please. So that's the game, and if we're talking Rams, I think we are contractually obligated to talk about Matthew Stafford's elbow.
Yes, Matthew Stafford's elbow, TM, which has
Right.
been, I think people are really concerned about this. People are passing Stafford in drafts because of the elbow. They're not betting on the Rams to win the Super Bowl because of the elbow. It doesn't affect the line. It doesn't move their win total. It doesn't change their Super Bowl odds. By all accounts now, he feels better than he did last season. These players, they have to deal with so many nagging injuries. Stafford's has just been more public than most, but this doesn't affect my opinion of Stafford at all. Just going to treat him as though he is fine until he shows that he isn't. Do you have any concern about Matthew Stafford's elbow?
I don't, actually. I mean, one of the reasons why is because the Rams don't seem to. Like, it's something that's going to be monitored. My former colleague Adam Schefter tweeting today that Stafford is now said to feel better today than he did at this time last year. I do know that Adam is tight with a lot of people around the Rams organization, and they haven't signed another quarterback. Like, he's expected to play. He's not expected to be on a pitch count or anything like that. He's going to have to sort of work through it the way he did last year. Had a surgery last year, didn't totally, solve it, I suppose, but again, he played with some version of this last year and obviously was super productive.
To your point, I would be concerned about Matthew Stafford's elbow had they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. Or something like that. The fact that they didn't and they're rolling as is, that means if Stafford goes down and there's a real problem, then they're done. They're done for the year, and they're not too worried about that, it seems. Now,
yeah, and by the way, I mean, it is affecting the betting line. The Bills come into this game as favorites. Yeah, which is sort of crazy to me. By the way, give me the Rams.
Yeah.
Give me the Rams getting points at home. McVay 5-0 against the spread as the Rams head coach in Week 1 games.
Plus
he hasn't
2.5.
Right.
Not a lot of respect for the defending champs.
Not a lot of respect for the defending champs. By the way, the Super Bowl champion has won their opening game. I want to say 5 of the last 6 years.
It's the tradition at this point. I think Eli dropped one to the Cowboys from memory, but that was going back a little while. So certainly, the game is effectively a coin flip, and the Rams not getting a lot of respect. Now, talked about Matthew Stafford not having concerns about his injury. Chris Godwin, a little bit more concerning, I think. Do you have any? We've been big on Chris Godwin. Do you have any concerns that he's not practicing, still not taking contact, and the season starts on Sunday?
I'm not concerned, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I don't think you wanted to start Chris Godwin Week 1 anyway. You wanted to see sort of how he's used, especially because, by the way, again, I'm a company man, so this is the Sunday night game. Bucks are playing the Cowboys Sunday night right here on NBC and Peacock, and so it's a big primetime game. The fact is you're not going to know if Chris Godwin is active until Sunday night. With this news and the fact that you're going to have to make lineup decisions prior to Sunday night, makes me feel like you're probably not going to have Chris Godwin Week 1. Fine, whatever. He was still of value. The fact that he's not starting the season on the physically unable to perform list, the fact that he's been out of practice without a knee brace, I feel really good about Chris Godwin, whether or not he plays this week. Again, I don't think you wanted to use him this week anyway, and based on ADP, you didn't draft him as a starter at any rate.
No, and the thing is the wide receivers, running backs, they always miss 1 to 2 games. That's just how it goes. That's how attrition in the NFL goes, and you just have to hope that Godwin, he's missing his games now, and then will be healthy at the back end of the season because he has an immense amount of upside. Now, let's jump into your running back love-hates for this week. Start with Love on the positive
we
side.
got a graphic.
There we go.
A graphic and a sound effect.
Really
Get better than that.
Comes in quickly.
Very
All right.
quickly.
In your love side, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Why do you love them?
Well, no Devontae Adams for the first thing, right? Okay, and we've talked about this throughout the preseason, but there were 7 games in which Devontae Adams did not play and Aaron Rodgers did in the Matt LaFleur era. In those 7 games, Aaron Jones had basically a 20% target share, averaged over 25 fantasy points per game, basically 20 touches a game. 25 points a game last year would have been the number 1 running back in fantasy. So he's always been productive. He averages about 5 targets a game without Adams. So we expect, heavy passing game usage for Aaron Jones. Think about A.J. Dillon, I should say. 2 games against the Vikings last year, over 80 yards in both of them, averaged 19 fantasy points per game in the 2 games against the Vikings. Also, by the way, which we're not bringing up in the Rotoworld headlines here, but Allen Lazard, not a sure thing. He showed up on the injury report yesterday as well. So all of a sudden, you've got no Devontae Adams. There's a chance that Allen Lazard either doesn't play or is less than 100%. They're talking up Sammy Watkins, and it feels a little bit like where you're trying to talk themselves into it. Like, hey, Sammy Watkins was good once.
He's great. Sammy Watkins.
He's good for one big week.
Yeah.
He is usually, right? Usually like week 1. He's awesome, and then, you don't hear from him again. But playing Minnesota, in Minnesota, it's always a tough place to play with a crowd. My expectation here is it's a heavy run game, especially given the receiving core being banged up. Both guys going to get a lot of work in a game in which they're going to want to control the clock and try to take the crowd out of it.
Awful rushing defense from Minnesota last year. That's something where you can pick holes in. And then I think this Green Bay offense is going to look a lot like it did in that Thursday night game against Arizona last year where Devontae Adams was out. Allen Lazard was out for that game as well. And in that game, A.J. Dillon, he led the team in rushing, and Aaron Jones led the team in receiving. And I think that those two are going to be the workhorses in this offense, more so than the great Sammy Watkins, who everyone always talks themselves into. And also the Packers are favourite in that game, which surprises some people because it's in Minnesota and there's lots of love about your Minnesota Vikings, who you adore. But the Packers are favourites, so expect that they'll be running the ball. Now, another guy you love, which was a little bit surprising to me, just because you like Ezekiel Elliott so much, but Tony Pollard popped up on the love.
Yeah, well, I love Ezekiel. Look, I don't love or hate players. I love or hate their ADP. And I always felt that Ezekiel Elliott, given what we thought was what we believe, what I know is a heavy workload coming for Ezekiel Elliott. Heavy workload. So I just thought, having said that, I don't think he gets a heavy workload this Sunday night against the Buccaneers. Right? Tampa Bay is really stout up the middle against the run. We know there's some questions around the offensive line for Dallas. They're banged up at wide receiver. We don't expect Michael Gallup to play in this game or at least be limited. See what you get out of, Noah Brown and Jalen Tolbert. Is he maybe not ready for primetime? You're going to get a ton of CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz, of course. But my expectation here is that Tony Pollard, who averaged over 70 scrimmage yards per game in 2021, gets a big game here. Okay? Tampa Bay, they allowed the fewest rushing yards to running backs, and Zeke struggled against them last year in this game. But they did allow the second most receptions to running backs. And that's the way I think that you have to attack Tampa Bay, obviously, especially if you've got an offensive line that's going to struggle against that D-line of the Bucs, is like you're going to try to get them in the flat, try to get the ball out quickly and take advantage of Tony Pollard's speed. I think you'll see him used in the receiving game. He did that a lot in college. So, yeah, I have Tony Pollard as, a mid-tier flex this week, running back 26. I think he could get even higher than that. I do like Tony Pollard this week. I think it's a big Tony Pollard week for Tampa Bay. Against Tampa Bay, I should say.
I think we're going to see teams just give up on running the ball against Tampa Bay up the middle. much like the game against the Colts last year, where Frank Reich just threw the ball, I think, 21 times in a row when he had Jonathan Taylor in the backfield and just never ran him because the Bucs' run defense up the middle is so intimidating. Whereas Pollard, he gives you a bit more of the home run threat, where Tampa Bay's not the team that you want Ezekiel Elliott running up the middle to grind out 4 yards, because he's going to grind out 1.5 yards.
That's correct.
You want the high variance. You want the home run swing. That's Tony Pollard. Okay, switching over to the hate. David Montgomery from Chicago. I think we're okay on overall just because of the volume, but I think this week you don't like him.
Listen, I think yes, if the volume is guaranteed, I don't know that it is. I think at some point this might be a committee with Khalil Herbert, but the concerns here are the offensive line. Coach Garrett was on the show earlier. He's been at Bears training camp. A lot of the Bears coaches obviously worked, including Eberflus, worked for Garrett. And so, he's pro that team, and even he, Jason Garrett, literally the nicest man on the planet and one of the most positive people you'll ever meet, was just like, the offensive line's a work in progress.
Yeah,
the offensive line is going to struggle, and it is. It's very potentially the worst offensive line in football. Niners are a 7-point favorite. We expect them to be trailing in this game. Montgomery gets used in the passing game, but not a ton. Remember, he had 21 receptions last year. 21. Now he missed some time, obviously, but it's not like he ain't Austin Eckler. You understand what I'm saying in terms of his usage in the passing game? When he sees fewer than 20 touches, and I think there's a chance he sees fewer this week, he averaged 11.6 fantasy points per game. Niners allow the second fewest yards to opposing running backs last year. I don't know. Montgomery makes me super nervous this week for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, second lowest rushing yards per carry to running backs, second only to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, I mean, the flaw with the Niners last season defensively was that they were just giving up these bombs deep down the field because of the problems in the secondary. Their rushing defense has been rock solid. Okay, let's jump into quickly Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I priced as a -300 favorite to appear on the hate section of this column just because it feels like he's going to make multiple apperances.
He is.
Why don't you like him?
That was a good line, by the way. Very good
cashed.
Line. 100%, and you still would have cashed.
Yeah.
Look, I just, first off, he wasn't good last year. Can we just start with that? He wasn't good last year. 2 games. He had 2 games last year where he got more than 1 red zone carry. Like, they just don't use him down there, and you're like, well, he's the pass-catching back. But he had a that decimal's important. He had a 7.4% target share. Among running backs that played at least 10 games, that was 41st. Like, they're not really using him in the passing game. They're not using him in the red zone. Like, what do we like about this guy? Because I don't know if all these running backs will be active. My assumption is that one of them's a healthy scratch, but Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, Rojo, Ronald Jones, at least 2 of those guys are going to be there active and being used. And so I think this is a 3-headed running back by committee and not an easy matchup on a team that's going to be pass first, which is what the Chiefs are. No thank you on. I have them, just barely inside my top 30 CEH and would avoid them if I could.
A lot of pessimism about the Cardinals overall, but I mean, they were an 11-win team last year that was in the mix for the 1 seed. And now their win total's at 8.5. They're underdogs to make the playoffs. And a lot of that is because of the defense, but it's because of the secondary and the fact they don't have any cornerbacks. They're actually the 6th best team in terms of rushing defense last season. So I think that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even in the best of situations, might not be able to get it done. And in the worst of situations, even less so.
That was the nicest thing anyone's ever said about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Hey, you know what? You can find my love-hate column, my rankings, my preseason rankings, my week 1 rankings. And it's not just me, but it's Denny Carter, it's Pat Doherty, it's RotoPat, it's Pat Corain, it's Lawrence Jackson, it's the entire Rotoworld team, Kyle Dvorak. Go to rotoworld.com, NBCSportsEdge.com to check it out. Here's the best part. It's all free. My rankings, my love-hate, my 100 facts, all free. Free. And we'll be back right after this.
Is the guy we saw in 2019, is he still there?
I'm trying to top that.
Top it?
Yeah, top that for sure.
He's trying to do that. You know, can I tell you something? Can I tell you something, Jay?
Talk to me, Matthew. Let's walk through what just happened there.
And when I was in high school, when I was in high, and you can look at my receding hairline, realize that was a long time ago. Black and white.
Yes.
Yeah, we barely had talking movies back then. Anyway, so when I was in high school, I was a DJ. I worked my way through high school as a radio DJ. Believe it or not, I was Matthew Rock and Roll Berry, spinning classic rock at KTAM, Bryan College Station, Texas, 7 to midnight, every single night, Monday through Friday. So, in other words, Jay, I'm 52 years old, and I have been in front of a microphone since I was 18 years old. 17. I mean, my first job at the radio station was 14. I probably got on the air at 16. So I've been in front of a microphone in some form or fashion since I was 16 years old. I'm 52. And I literally just, for people that aren't watching, that are just listening to the audio broadcast, I just started talking. But problem is I have a handheld mic. Normally I have mics on me or whatever, or a mic in front of me. Like a moron, I just started talking, Jay, as if people could hear me. Like I might as well have gotten a tin can and yelled out the window.
Yeah, I didn't know whether to let you work through it yourself.
Yeah.
Or pick it up for you.
Thanks. Thanks. Some teammate you are.
Yeah.
I had producers get in my ear, producers got in my ear and they said literally a sentence that you should never have to say to an on-air talent. Pick up the microphone. Talk into the microphone, you moron.
Talking to the microphone, Matthew.
You dumbass. The positives is that we were already canceled.
Yeah,
so
we're out.
It doesn't matter. Really, it's it was more for the people at home watching. Our producers. But anyway, whatever. I'm an idiot. So what I was trying to do there, where I was going, my joke, which is no longer relevant now,
which was heard by me,
which is heard by you and no one else, because
Yeah,
I didn't have the microphone up. Because in theory, I'm a broadcasting professional. Theory. I wonder if I'll do that tonight on Football Night in America in front of 19 million people. Try to talk without my microphone.
Yeah, Chris Sims knocking you.
Yeah,
Pick
exactly.
Up the mic,
Probably
Matthew.
pick up the microphone, you moron. By the way, I would bet that happens. Anyway, Michael Thomas in the quote that we heard the clip online coming into the segment, and Michael Thomas says, they asked him about that player in 2019. He says, I'm going to try to beat that. I was going to say, well, listen, in the words of the wise fantasy football manager Yoda, there is no try. There is no try. Do or do not.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Michael Thomas, do or do not.
Yes, no more chat.
By the way, as we get into love-hate for wide receivers, I'm saying do not.
Yeah, he's going to come up.
He is going to come up.
In the second part.
That's a hint. That's what we broadcasting professionals, because I am one, now that I'm using a microphone, call foreshadowing.
Yeah.
A tease. That's what we call it, a tease.
Okay. Let's jump in to the love.
Yeah. Jump right in.
Teasing.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, buddy.
He's on your love list. You like him a lot.
I do like Juju Smith-Schuster. Look, ultimately what I think is going to happen here is we think they're going to throw a ton. This is one of the highest over-unders on the slate at the Cardinals. Chiefs at Cardinals, we expect a lot of fireworks, a lot of scoring. 315 targets, I believe, is the number between Byron Pringle, Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson, and Darrell Williams from last year. Tyreek and Pringle alone leave a 34% target share. Just the two of them, 219 targets. So Juju Smith-Schuster, who from 2018 to 2020 was a top 20 wide receiver, he's gonna play some out of the slot. He can move all over. They had to play him out of the slot last year because Ben could only throw it 1.5 yards. But he'll play some of the slot. Chiefs have ranked top 5 in the NFL in terms of wide receiver slot targets the last 2 years. Not for nothing. Cardinals last year allowed an NFL high 27 touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. They gave up a ton of touchdowns to wide receivers. They're facing Mahomes. Juju's there. He's the number one guy. Give me some Juju. Give me some Juju this week. I have him as a top 16 wide receiver.
Yeah. We talked in the last segment about Arizona's defense and how it's not the best matchup for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Well, it's an amazing matchup for Juju Smith-Schuster because the Cardinals don't have any cornerbacks.
That's right.
And Patrick Mahomes is throwing against
He's
the team with no cornerbacks.
Yeah,
so
he's good. Hashtag analysis.
That's a recipe.
I don't know if you saw the tweet, but Chiefs beat reporter tweeting that Patrick Mahomes was quoted as saying, like, hey, it's not going to just be, he apologized to fantasy football managers because it's not going to be just Kelsey and Tyreek, right? It's there it is from Charles Goldman at Goldman C NFL. Hashtag Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes apologized to fantasy football fans. Quote, it's not going to just be Tyreek and Travis. It's going to come from everywhere. You're going to have to choose the right guy every week. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. I would be happy to play in a fantasy football league with you if you are so inclined. The punishment for last plate is you have to watch your brother's TikToks. But what I would say here is that it's going to be Juju. I get it. You want to talk up your guys, MVS, Sky Moore. They'll get theirs, I'm sure. It's going to be Juju. I'm telling you right now, Patrick, when you're looking to the defense, you're looking who's open, it's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. That's who you're going to be throwing to. Wide receiver 16 this week.
Yeah, it just has to be Juju Smith-Schuster because the other guys, they just don't have his kind of skill set, his level of diversity in his route tree.
Yep.
So we like Juju Smith-Schuster now. Another extremely talented wide receiver who changed teams, one of the hottest names in the offseason, A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
Who's tied inextricably to your ride-or-die Jalen Hurts.
My little Jalen Hurts there. Yep,
Yeah,
no
so
question.
Why do you like A.J. Brown this week specifically?
I think they're going to come out throwing. I mean, again, we expect the Lions defense to be better this year. We talked about Dan Campbell as a potential Coach of the Year candidate. We love that bet at the odds you're getting. But A.J. Brown's coming over. He's going to probably get a 25% target share or north of that. Lions allowed the most deep receptions last season. That's one of the things about Jalen Hurts. One of the reasons his accuracy numbers are down is because his average depth of target is so deep. He likes to throw deep. We know A.J. Brown obviously can run those kind of routes, use that a lot. He's also great after the catch as well. I think he has a big game here. I'm as a top 8 wide receiver. Again, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are very close friends off the field and have been for a while. I think Jalen Hurts wants to welcome him to the team in a big way.
I like that. Yeah, in terms of week one, I think everyone focuses on and overreacts to the results out of week one. When we're setting betting lines, of course, we weigh in the results, but we're looking at the underlying happenings, the underlying numbers. And to me, almost the most interesting thing this week across the whole slate is how much do the Philadelphia Eagles throw the ball? Because last season they were basically the most run-heavy team in the league in the second half of the year.
Yeah, they're in Tennessee.
If they're to activate their upside, they need to throw more. And they're a very analytically inclined organization. I think they will know that the only way they're winning the Super Bowl is if Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback and is throwing the ball, and A.J. Brown is the guy who benefits the most from that.
How would I, if you were me, activate my upside? How does one do that?
Well, I would start by dropping the socks because you didn't wear socks on Fallon.
I didn't.
A surprisingly good look.
Yes. You don't like these socks? Are these bad socks? Do I have bad socks?
Can we zoom in on the ankle?
The ankle? What do you mean the ankle? I got to show the ankle?
I think, some...
Do people want to see my ankles?
I think a little teasing with the ankle.
That
activates your upside.
Do I have good ankles?
You got great.
Do people think I have good ankles? Someone take a shot of my ankles here.
Over
there.
Once Blake...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm being told my ankles camera is camera 1. Sorry, let me get it over there. I have small ankles, I'm feeling like. It's like there. Like right, yeah.
Once Blake and Damien are done looking at the swelling and George Kittle's groin, they can kind of do an analysis of your ankle.
There are websites devoted to celebs. I'm using this in quotes here. Celebs' feet. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, I think
like there's some people that are really into feet.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Definitely, Matthew.
Well, we're already canceled. Whatever. At this point, we've already lost. We've already cashed all our chips in. We're being escorted out by security at the casino at this point. It doesn't matter at this point. What I'm asking is that, do you think if I show off camera, I'll do this. I'll show you my feet. Do you think if I came out here, because now they're saying show your ankles, but maybe I go all the way. Maybe I take it all off.
Yeah.
And I show my bare feet.
Yeah.
Do you think my bare feet would be attractive enough to make it on one of those sites, one of those foot fetish sites?
I'd say it's a plus 1,400 underdog, but
all right.
you never know.
You never know.
Look,
sometimes those pay off.
We talk about high variance.
Yes.
It's very, very low floor, high ceiling.
All
okay.
Right, there we go.
Let's get back to Marquis Brown.
Yeah.
Another
guy that I love. Yeah.
Yeah, last
Marquis
guy that
Brown.
you love, Marquis Brown.
Again, we expect a lot of fireworks in this game. No DeAndre Hopkins in this game, obviously, as well. Zach Ertz a little bit gimpy. Don't know what his status is as of yet. The expectation is he's going to play, but Kansas City, bottom 5 in the NFL last year in yards and touchdowns allowed on deep passes. Again, it's so hard because defenses are different and they change over year to year, but it's all we really have to go on. The expectation here, here's 2 things we know for a fact. But we know 3. One is that the moths love you, like a butterfly effect.
Mothman prophecies.
Yeah, exactly.
Sandra Bullock.
A nice reference. There you go.
Thank you.
Do they show that in Australia?
It's one of the most beloved films in all of Australia, The Mothman Prophecies.
All right, a lot to unpack with that. But let's just move on back to Marquis Brown because they're going to want to cut this video. So let me reset this. One of the things I like about Marquis Brown, who I have as wide receiver 14 this year, this week I should say, I have Marquis Brown at wide receiver 14. He makes the love list here in week number 1. We know 2 things for sure. He's really fast. He's great on deep passes, okay? Kyler Murray, really good and accurate on deep passes. The 3rd highest rate of passes thrown 20 or more yards downfield in 2021. He led all quarterbacks in deep completion rate on those passes last year. So he throws deep a lot, and he's accurate when he does so. Marquis Brown, his former college teammate, really good on those deep passes. Bottom 5 in the NFL. Kansas City this is. But at Kansas City Chiefs, bottom 5 in the NFL in terms of yards and touchdowns allowed on deep passes last season. It's this new guy. He's going to take some shots to Marquis Brown. We expect a lot of points to be scored in this game. Give me Marquis Brown on the level list as a top 15 play.
Halfway through last season, Kyler Murray was favorite to win MVP. He's really, really good, and he's going to be throwing the ball. He gets better as a passer every year as the music plays to introduce my point that who else is he throwing to? Because it's Marquis Brown, it's Zach Ertz is banged up, DeAndre Hopkins is obviously out for 6 weeks, so Marquis Brown is the guy.
You'll see some A.J. Green. Hopefully they're going to manufacture some touches for Rondell Moore. They got a kid there named Antoine Wesley that I'm sort of obsessed with that I really like. But, yeah, it's going to be Hollywood Brown. And so that's why he makes the love list and as a top 15 play for me. But some people that are not on the love list this week, which makes the hate list.
Your man.
Michael Thomas.
Yoda.
Just again, try. No, do or do not, Michael Thomas. It's not me. That's Yoda. Here's my concern. I think there's potentially value in him this year. He was going so late in drafts, but dealt with a little bit of a hamstring injury in the preseason. His last regular season game was December 13th, 2020. Okay? 2020. 3 of his 7 regular season games that he played in 2020, and that was quite a while ago. He had under double-digit fantasy points in those 2 games. You think about this Falcons secondary. A.J. Terrell had a really nice season last year.
Most underrated defensive player in the league.
They add Casey Hayward in the offseason. The Falcons have a better secondary that I think they probably are getting credit for right now. And so Michael Thomas, just the usage is so unknown. I'm outside my top 30 this week.
2 things with Michael Thomas. One, he's saying that he's going to top his 2019 season. 2019, he was Offensive Player of the Year and set the record for most receptions in a season ever. Right now, he's 100 to 1 to win Offensive Player of the Year, so 100 to 1 to replicate his 2019 season.
Right.
And I wouldn't touch the 100 to 1 either.
Yeah.
I think you'd want 250 to 1. And then secondly, it seems like he's not 100% for the game necessarily, and there's still some concern, and he might need some more time. He's been injured for 2 years. Does he need 3 more days? At this point, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
He just doesn't play football. He needs to get out there and really start showing something, I think. And look, I agree. At the ADP, at that point, you don't really care about the downside as much because there is still upside, and he still did what he did in 2019. But in terms of just average outcome, it's pretty low for Michael Thomas.
You want to see it first.
Yeah.
Just given how long he's been away from football, before I'm starting him in my lineup, kind of want to see it first. I think this is a big Alvin Kamara game. I have Kamara as a top 5 play this week. Amari Cooper also makes my hate list.
Okay. Another guy who was pretty short odds to feature at some point. You don't like the Jacoby Brissett hookup?
Yeah, no.
No? The Jacoby hook?
Have you watched Jacoby Brissett play?
I have.
Jacoby Brissett is fine. He's a backup quarterback. That's what he is.
Would he
He's
meet
a
your
legit
definition of a professional quarterback in the mold of Carson Wentz?
You know what? He's a professional backup quarterback.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a reason why he's a backup. But my concern on Amari Cooper is his home road splits are pretty bad for his career. When he's at home, averages, over 10 yards a target, a 69% catch rate. on the road, 7.3 yards a target, 58% catch rate. Like, he just his numbers, whether it is fantasy points or just underlying counting statistics, he's worse on the road. This game is in Carolina against the Panthers. Who knows what this offense is going to look like under Jacoby Brissett. My expectation is it's pretty run heavy. Cooper's a guy that I have outside my top 35.
Carolina has a sneaky okay defense as well. It's not a disaster. Okay, let's pivot to tight ends. A couple of guys you love. First one, TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, look, there's only 3 rules in this entire world.
Okay, here we go.
Death.
Yes.
Taxes.
Yes.
Start your tight ends against the Eagles.
Okay, number 3. Yep.
It goes to a defensive philosophy in terms of how they play. Last year, they also gave up the most receptions and touchdowns to tight ends. It's just about, leaving the middle of the field a little bit open. They actually allowed a tight end to score a touchdown in 11 of their 17 games last year. Last year when Hawkinson played these same Eagles, 10 for 89 on 11 targets.
That's good.
We think this offense is going to be improved in Detroit. Give me TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, this Eagles team, they obviously made upgrades across the board in almost every skill group, but linebacker is still their weakness. They kind of need Nakobe Dean to be good straight away.
Yep.
And so it makes sense that TJ Hawkinson might replicate his line from last season. Now, the flip side of Fade Jacoby, David Njoku makes your love list.
Yeah, that's correct. The flip side of Amari Cooper.
The flip side of fading Jacoby Brissett in general is that there is some upside of Njoku.
David Njoku. So last year, in terms of end zone target share among tight ends, he was tied for the 3rd highest. And for all the bagging we want to do on Jacoby Brissett, the fact is that when he was the starter with the Colts in 2019, the year Andrew Luck retired, right? He targeted tight ends 26% of the time. Last year, he played 7 games for the Dolphins as a starter, 28% target share to tight ends when he was with Miami. Like, he likes to target the tight end. And so David Njoku, who's one of the few weapons that the Browns have against Carolina, I do think he's a very higher end tight end too, with some upside. I have it tight end 14 in week 1.
Yeah. This is unproven, but I have a gut feel that professional backup quarterbacks, they hone in on the tight end. It's like Tyler Huntley last year, just threw the ball to Mark Andrews every single play. And I think Jacoby Brissett might do the same thing with Njoku.
Announcers always refer to it as like kind of the safety valve,
Yes.
and just
because you're not throwing as deep. It's not as risky generally. Tight end passes
easier
get
throw.
Intercepted at a lower rate.
Yeah, it's usually a easier throw. It's usually like right over the middle. It's you're not trying to throw outside the hashes, and 1,000% agree with that.
Your hate list, just one guy on it from the tight end group, Mike Gesicki.
Well, it's a tough matchup against the Patriots, right, who allowed the fewest yards and receptions to opposing tight ends last season. There were rumors that they were trying to move on from Gesicki. Again, this is something we talked about on the Draft Guide show and the Draft Day Manifesto episode of the Happy Hour, Jay, which is that what we're trying to do, and I know you do the same thing when you're setting betting lines, is that all you're trying to do is cut out as much variance as possible. That you're trying to okay, we know there's a bunch of randomness with an NFL game, so what can we cut out of that randomness? And we just have no idea what the Dolphins' offense is going to look like. Is Gesicki the new Kittle, or is Gesicki just an afterthought because they're going to go all speed burners in yards after the catch with guys like Waddle and Hill and Edmonds? We just don't know. I think the jury's still out on Tua, by the way. When we get to quarterbacks, little hint, Tua makes it. He has struggled, and he's played 3 career games against Tua, against Bill Belichick. Tua has, and not great.
Not great.
Not great. Hashtag not great. No, he was bad. We'll get to it when we get there. But Gesicki makes me nervous until we see what this offense looks like, especially given how good New England is against tight ends. He's a pass for me. He's outside my top 20 of tight ends.
I would say it's a bad sign that after one offseason, Mike McDaniel tried to trade the guy immediately. That generally doesn't work out. All right, we're going to break. When we come back, break down some quarterbacks, including your man Tua.
We will. Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, fantasy football pregame. Me and Jay, Michael Smith on Peacock. Check it out this Sunday morning. I remembered to pick up the mic this time. It is the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Jay Croucher and Matthew Berry on the show that is served by our friends at Applebee's. We are live from SoFi Stadium, beautiful SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, as the Bills will take on the Rams tonight as we open the season. We open the NFL season. By we, I mean me and Jay. We're the ones that are actually doing it.
Yes.
It's
we have
us.
the keys to the
us
season
and us
doors.
only. We are here at Rams House. As you can see, they're playing music loudly. Our producer, Steve D'Agostino, basically said, hey, we're doing a broadcast. Do you mind not playing any music? And they said, no, yeah, we got you. We'll wait till the show's over. He goes, oh, thank you so much. It's Matthew Berry's show. And they're like, oh, and immediately started the music. Just so you know.
Stephen D'Agostino, no sway.
No
sway
swag.
at SoFi Stadium.
No swag. He should have shut up. He should have said, no, this is pro football talk.
Yeah.
This is Sims Unbuttoned. They just shut the hell up for that. But no, for the happy hour, they're just like, they're drunk. They won't know. By the way, he's sort of right. Sort of right. What do we have on the list now? What are we doing now? Where are we
doing
going?
quarterbacks.
I've heard of them.
Shock horror. It starts with the guy you love more than anyone else.
Oh,
the
yeah.
lead horse in your stable, Jalen Hurts.
Jalen
playing
Hurts.
the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I mean, he's my ride or die. And so if I didn't have him on the love list of, to start off with, as my ride or die, that would be a bad one, right? I mean, last year he started so hot. Over 20 fantasy points each of his first 7 games, averaged 24.4 fantasy points per game. He had one game against Detroit last year. He personally had over 70 rushing yards in that game against the Lions. We talked about the fact that they give up a lot of deep completions. You already know from early in the show, I'm in on A.J. Brown. Well, it stands to reason I'm in on the guy throwing him the ball. Miles Sanders, hey, shocker, already banged up. Who knows what his status is going to be for Sunday's game. Not sure that I truly care, but I do think that Jalen Hurts does a lot in this game, whether it's both with his arm and his legs. I have Jalen Hurts, as a top 5 quarterback this week.
Yeah, I think this is maybe the most interesting game on the slate. The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites at the Lions, and this is a great put up or shut up kind of Yoda kind of situation in this game where if the Eagles, who are now favorites in the NFC East, this is the type of game where they need to take care of business.
Yes.
If they go down in this game, then it doesn't bode well for Jalen Hurts all their season, but they are 3.5-point favorites.
It seems weird to call a guy a must-start. I mean, a must-win game in week 1, but I'm sort of with you because there's so many questions in the offseason about can Jalen Hurts be the guy? Can he be a franchise quarterback? Forget the fantasy. I'm just talking. And as you know, some, maybe all, Philadelphia sports fans have short fuses.
Yes.
They're never happy. And so they're already calling for Jalen Hurts to be replaced, and he's not the guy. And so one of the reasons I was so in on Jalen Hurts is because they have this easy schedule, great offensive line. But to your point, if they can't get it done against the Lions, that's only going to increase sort of the boo birds, if you will, and the angry calls to sports talk radio in Philadelphia. So it feels like kind of a must-win for Philadelphia to beat the Lions if they want to get to where they think they've got a shot to go. And I agree with him. I think on paper, they're one of the best teams in the NFL. Yeah,
I think if they lose to the Lions, they can still make the playoffs. They can still win the division. But people are now talking about the Eagles as a Super Bowl team, as a team that can get out of the NFC. And you shouldn't be losing to the Detroit Lions in Week 1 if that's what your true ceiling is. Another team, the favorite to get to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, as they have been, as they were last year, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady also makes your love list.
Yeah. Obviously, massive season last year. 9 different games with 25 or more fantasy points, led all quarterbacks. Actually led the NFL in passing touchdowns, passing yards, and passing attempts last season. And listen, I know Godwin may not play. They got Julio, they got Russell Gage, obviously Mike Evans. I don't know, man. I just don't want to bet against Tom Brady in prime time.
Yeah.
He's playing Sunday. That's a Sunday night game. It's more of a gut call than anything. I ain't betting against Tom Brady in the preseason. The Cowboys defense is good, but risky.
Yep.
They'll make big plays, but they also take chances. And I think that's the kind of stuff Brady loves to take advantage of.
It's a defense that's epitomized in a way by Trayvon Diggs, who's the ultimate trick or treat, and it is he's very divisive. We think that he averages out as an average cornerback because he takes so many risks that pay off, but when they don't, it goes really badly. Brady had 379 yards against the Cowboys. Last year in week 1, 4 touchdowns. For everyone concerned about Brady's age and whatever happened in the offseason, like, it's the same thing with Matthew Stafford's elbow. Like, let's see it manifest on the field before we write off Tom Brady.
Before we panic. Yeah, I just they have offensive line issues. He missed 11 days during training camp. He retired and then unretired, blah, 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 blah. When stuff like that happens, when Tom Brady's back is against the wall, that's when he crushes you. So I'm not betting against Tom Brady in preseason. Okay. I'm sorry, in prime time. I'm not betting against Tom Brady in prime time.
We love
Again, I've had
Tom
a microphone in front of my face since I was 14 years old.
Okay. Russell Wilson, the last guy on your love list. Going against the Seahawks.
Yeah, revenge game.
Yeah.
Hashtag revenge game.
Yeah. So I think Russ is going to be very popular this week. Why do you like him in particular?
Well, it's a home game for him in a weird way. I mean, so if you look at his splits over his career, since 2019, averages 22.4 fantasy points per game when he's at home, compared with just 18.3 when he's on the road. Yes, it's a road game, but it's a road game in Seattle at the Link where I believe CenturyLink Field.
I believe that's what they call it now.
So, yeah, I think Russ just has a monster game. Like, make no mistake, Russ wants to show. I'm like, it was done classy and above board and everything like that, but Russ wanted out.
Yeah.
He wanted out for a reason. And so clearly the situation had gone sour, and so I think Russ is going to show off.
I think so too. And I think his numbers last season overall didn't look great. It's because he had an injury that lasted like 6 weeks, and then either side of that, he didn't play great. But start of the season, end of the season, he was just Russell Wilson, the guy who's top 5 favorite for MVP every season. Okay, that wraps it up for the quarterbacks. So let's go to break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about some best bets in Bills-Rams.
I just want to mention once again, you and I and Michael Smith are doing a Sunday show this Sunday.
Yeah.
And we'll do it before the games, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Take you all the way up into kickoff. It's on Peacock. Check it out. Fantasy football pregame. It's also available on Sirius XM.
Let's talk Mothman Prophecies, man.
Channel 85. Get this. Score big every Sunday night. Every Sunday night. And by the way, you can also do it tonight, Thursday night. The NFL season is finally here. The NBC Sports Predictor app is giving you 2 shots at winning $100,000 by entering Sunday Night 7's free contests. Okay, so the first is tonight. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to guess what will happen between the Bills and the Rams as the teams usher in the 2022 season. Then on Sunday night, you'll have another chance when the Buccaneers face the Cowboys. So if you don't have the Predictor app, go download it now. It is free. You have 2 shots at winning $100,000. Unless you hate free money, go download this app. And by the way, come play against me and Jay and all of us here. You can use the promo code ROTO22 to join our private league, ROTO22 to join our private league. Again, it's free for $100,000 on the NBC Sports Predictor app.
Okay. We're going to close out with some best bets for the game tonight being played behind us. Your
best
first
bets
one,
are as soon as our show's over, that's when they stop the music.
Yeah, exactly. Allen Robinson, over-under, 66.5 receiving yards. Where are you going there?
I'm taking over.
Okay.
Right? A non-Cooper Kupp pass catcher went over this number 14 different times last season. Allen Robinson, his prop opened at 60.5, so it's already been betting up. It's already now up to 66, so people are believing this. Think about how this game plays out, Jay. The offensive line is beat up for the Rams. Cam Akers is beat up again. So I think the way they move the ball in this game is through the air. Cooper Kupp's going to get his attention. Give me Allen Robinson in a high-scoring game.
I like it. Gabe Davis, over under 60.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over on this as well. Look, he only played 8 games with more than 50% of the offensive snaps. He's going to get that tonight. He averaged 74 yards a game in those 8 games. Again, the line's 60. So Jalen Ramsey's not going to shadow Gabe Davis. He's going to be on Stephon Diggs for a decent portion of this game. Give me Gabe Davis.
Okay, my 2 ones, quickly. Player to have the most rushing yards. Devin Singletary, plus 200. No player is set for more than 45.5 rushing yards. People are going to be teams are going to be throwing the ball, but I think that Singletary is the best running back across either roster. I think he wins that. And then Matthew Stafford to throw an interception, which is about minus 135. He led the league in interceptions last season. They're going to be throwing a lot, And I think that the Bills, who had the #1 pass defense by DVOA last year, they'll be able to catch one of Stafford's moments of madness.
It'll be interesting to see because no Tre'Davious White, and this as well. They got an inexperienced secondary back there.
Safeties, I think.
Right, pretty much they are. All right, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It is last call. For Jay Croucher, I'm Matthew Berry. Tune in tonight to Football Night in America. We'll see you then. We'll be back here tomorrow on the Happy Hour with Matthew Berry. Peace out. Season's here. Let's go. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.